So we have quite a few questions for this evening. I'll try to get through them as fast as I can. The first question we're going to look at is one about the relation of wisdom and compassion. Very often when we're thinking about compassion, we're thinking about the suffering that people have, the external suffering, whether it's in wars or famines or floods. And then when we look at wisdom, we're looking at wisdom as waking up to the nature of emptiness, to see that all manifesting phenomena are inseparable from emptiness. Now, if somebody has had their house blown up and they're holding their dead child in their arms, the thought that this is all an illusion can seem almost like an insult to the suffering person. But what we have to, before we unpack this, we have to think again about the nature of the 9 yanas, or the 9 vehicles. If you were to think of these as 9 separate horses, then you might be able to have one foot on one horse and one foot on another. But they would have to be riding at the same speed and be quite close together. The vehicle where we see sentient beings as having inherent existence, as being real, and as having real suffering, this vehicle is far from the Mahayana view of emptiness. So that if, when we have compassion, we say people are real, their suffering is real, and then when we look at wisdom and we say everything's an illusion, we will not be able to bring these two together. When we come into the Dharma, and especially if we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, new pathways for understanding our experience are opened up for us. So, when we see these terrible pictures which are everywhere now, violent attacks of cruelty, malicious desire to harm and to hurt, what we see is our view of people as truly existing. This is not the Dharma view. We go back to the first Dharma view, it says the true status of sentient beings, especially human sentient beings, is the 5 skandhas. That is to say, we manifest as a composite, as a coming together of different factors. And the sense that there is a real person there is a kind of hallucination. We imagine or we impute inherent existence to people. But this is a construct. And because it's a construct, different people will construct their interpretation of that person in different ways. So when houses are being blown up and people are dying, if these people are your friends, then you think it's terrible. But if these people are your enemy, you think another success. Now, it's a very challenging view or a very challenging task to be able to see that what I believe to be a truly existing person is in fact a construct of my own mind. It's not that people don't exist at all. They exist dependently. That is to say, their existence is not something internal to them, but is dependent on many factors. So I feel that I exist. But if I stop breathing, I won't exist. My existence is dependent on the functioning of my lungs, my heart, my kidneys, and so on. So my existence is not some essential quality deep inside me that generates all my activity. Rather, my activity generates experiences and interpretations which I make use of to keep fabricating the ongoing story of I, me, myself. So if you start from a realist position, people are real, their suffering is real, then if you see them as illusory phenomena, it is as if you are abandoning them. But when we see that our actual status is that we are illusory formations, then to take us as real is unhelpful. So deep compassion is to be with others with the clarity that from the very beginning they have never had the least atom of separate existence. So if we, for example, did practice to be reborn in a pure land, would we be abandoning those who are left wandering in samsara? Well, pure land, a Buddha land, is not a holiday camp. We go there to hear Dharma 24 hours a day, where everything is oriented towards visiting different Buddhas, getting different teachings so that we get the most rounded appreciation of Dharma. So, although we are not consciously thinking about the people in the hell realms and hungry ghost realms, all the pure lands are related to the Mahayana view, which has as its orientation the liberation of all beings. So this orientation is implicit in everything which happens in the Pure Lands. So the Buddha said suffering has two main forms: getting what you don't want and not getting what you do want. So that indicates that it is our own tendency to like something very much or not like something very much, which pulls us into suffering. That is to say, the root of the suffering doesn't lie in the object. It lies in our lack of equanimity towards all the possible appearances which can arise. So if we want to integrate Mahayana compassion with being in the world with others, and not to have to struggle to intellectually reorient ourselves moment by moment as each new situation arises, then we have to enter the path of Tantra. And there we directly experience the illusory forms of Tara and Chenrezi and Padmasambhava arising in ways which can touch us and help us. So it's very important, if we don't want to get exhausted and overwhelmed by all the nasty behavior that we see dictators and bullying men doing everywhere, then we need to be careful not to start from the false assumptions that sentient beings are real and separate, trees are real and separate, birds are real and separate. Okay, so next question. How to work with obsessive thoughts, fantasies, and memories that arise during the day. Given that they're obsessive, we have the sense that we are very easily pulled into believing that these thoughts and feelings have some true message for us. So the issue here is about fusion. We know that if we are sitting doing open meditation practice, very often when a thought arises, we merge into that thought and are carried away by it for a few moments. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that this happens, because when we look for who am I, we find that there are thousands of things we can say. That is to say, who I describe myself as being is a response to a particular situation, but no answer to the question, who am I, could fit all the potential answers which could arise. So soldiers learn to stand to attention. And if they are on guard duty, they have to stand for some hours, being perfectly mindful of what's happening. And if they fall asleep while they're on duty, then this is big trouble, because this could let the enemy into the camp. But we are not soldiers. Our minds go here, there, everywhere. So distraction is our normal way of life. And this is because we don't exist. The person who is a soldier is also somebody's son or daughter. They are friends, they maybe play football, but none of this matters when they are on duty. The duty defines their outline or their identity very precisely. And then we know, is that person on duty, or have they strayed off into not functioning like a soldier? Siya Lama used to tell me that in Tibet there were many monks. And the advantage of being a monk and wearing robes is that if you decide you want to have sex with a woman and you go up to her, she'll say, "Oh, but you are a monk. I cannot sleep with you." That is to say, the monk's robes are a fixed point of reference. The soldier's uniform is a fixed point of reference. And when you sit to do shamatha, then the sensation of the breath at your nostrils is a fixed point of reference. But these are all contrived. They are artificial. And that's why it's easy to get distracted. So if you have a lot of discursive thoughts arising, you could see them as a problem, or you could see them as the showing of the richness of the potential of your mind. You're being pulled towards identification with the thought, because when you fuse with the thought, it seems to give you, at least for that moment, a particular shape. Then another thought takes your attention and you take on that shape. So if you observe your mind, distraction shows you the empty nature of your mind, which is why in the Mahayana tradition and in Tantra, we don't do too much shamatha, because it's a way of dulling our receptivity. You need some capacity for focused attention and mindful attention, but it can easily become a kind of protective castle. Okay, so before we go on to the next question, when we study Dharma, the structure that is recommended has three stages. The first is reading or listening to Dharma. Then we reflect on the meaning, and then we take it into meditation practice. And we might just want to swallow Dharma down like a milkshake. But that's not so helpful, because we are not babies. We need teeth, and teeth cut into the food. and chew it up into little pieces. So the first stage of listening to Dharma or reading it, we're sucking it in, we're absorbing this, a bit like the milkshake. But as it comes into us, it starts to thicken. And then we need to chew it. Now, of course, we are told that we shouldn't mix our fresh Dharma food with our old egoic ideas. And if we are going to think about the Dharma, necessarily we'll bring some of the ideas from our education and culture into interaction with it. I don't think we should worry about that too much. Because what matters is how Dharma gets to you, how it becomes part of your life, how it functions for you. You're not being asked to be the kind of maintainer of the museum of Buddhist culture, where everything should be properly labeled and in its little glass case. So we have to think about our own situation using Dharma terms. So, for example, the next question is how to let go of a strong attachment to a person that causes pain. And the difficulty with this question, and it comes with many of the questions, is that they are somewhat distant and objectified. Because the question is surely, I feel a strong attachment. So if I was to meet the person and they ask me their question, I would be asking them, where is this attachment for you? Is it in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your body? Is it something you can think about or just something that takes you over? That is to say, I would be curious about it. So that's what I would be suggesting to you now, is that it's fine to have a question to ask and to formulate it. But then I suggest you really need to chew it, interrogate it, find out what do these words mean? How is it for you? Because how do I let go of a strong attachment? So this indicates somebody has the attachment. So I have a watch. I'm holding my watch. I have a strong attachment to the watch. And I let go of it. Because I take up the watch and simultaneously I take up the attachment. It's not that I have an attachment to the watch, otherwise I'd have it in my hand all the time. But when I become aware of the watch, I feel a strong desire to hold it or to engage with it. So the interesting issue here is what is the phenomenology of attachment? So that is to say, what sort of phenomena are arising in me and in my perception of the watch that gives me the sense I want that, I need that. It could be a functional attachment. Because of the nature of my work, I need to know the time. Or it could be an emotional attachment. This is what we need to look at before we just send in questions. Because if I answer your question, but you haven't chewed up your question, how will you chew up the answer? This is your life. Samsara is a big, lonely place. It's not easy for us to meet like-minded people in the Sangha. We face many challenges on our own. Should I do this? Should I do that? Who knows? We live in our skin bag. How should I live? Well, we might say, if you become a monk or a nun, then it's very easy to tell you how to live. There are many rules that define this. Or you join the army, it will be very clear how to behave. If you're in the army, you have to run towards the enemy and shoot at them. And if you turn around and try to run away, your officer will shoot you. So that helps to simplify the choices. But if we are just ourselves and we go out in the street, how shall we live? In London, there are a lot of beggars on the street at the moment. Should I give the same amount to each beggar? Should I not give anything to the beggars? Should I give money to the beggars I like? Or should I override my own affections and give money to the beggars I don't like? Who knows? Nobody knows. This is the issue of living in your own skin. Therefore, we need to become able to work with complex fields of experience. Our path is leading us towards the understanding of illusion and non-duality. In duality, we have black and white, good and bad. When you listen to dictators, they always know who are the friends, who are the enemies. But in life, we have acquaintances who sometimes are not very nice to us. Should we stop talking with these people? They're not always unpleasant, but sometimes they say things which are quite hurtful. For meditators, there is no rule book to guide this. Our function is to stay relaxed and open, and to see the self-arising and self-vanishing of all moments of experience. This is the opening of the true door, that there is no substantial reality in any proposition or in any form that we take to be a person or a rabbit. So this person goes on and adds more thoughts. I can't let go of my feelings. I stay with them until they vanish. How to live through this pain? The formulation of the problem in this way, or the question in this way: how can I live through this pain? So it starts, I exist, I have this pain, it's horrible, but I can't get rid of it. So there we see that the grammatical formulation of the issue itself intensifies the dualistic feeling of something horrible is happening to me. So we have to remember, I, me, myself, arises as the result of processes of interaction of thoughts, feelings, memories, and so on. If we start with the proposition, I exist, and then we struggle to free ourselves from it, this is starting in the wrong place. So with that, you're starting in the wrong place. A feeling arises and it vanishes. The patterning of the movement of experience can appear to be the expression of a reliable self. But there is no reliable self. The self is a product. It's not the source of the process. It's the product of the process. The process of the arising of thoughts, feelings, memories, and so on, these movements or these currents of experience generate the notion of I am like this, I am tired, I am happy. So the key thing is to observe your thinking and your way of speaking and see when you start from an assumption. Oh, somebody might say, oh, I don't like winter. And then they go to see the doctor. And the doctor says, you have 1 week to live. Oh, 1 week of winter. But what a precious week. Now it takes on a real value. This is the last time I see the faces of my friends or my children. So when we say these kind of unidirectional statements, I don't like winter, they are the voice of stupidity because circumstances shift and change, and it might be wonderful. Some of you are living in places where the summer temperatures will go up to 50 and beyond. So when it's 54 degrees and your blood is starting to boil, then maybe you want to say, I love winter. That is to say, all assertions, all assumptions are constructs. They are not inherently true. They depend on circumstances. Okay, so next question. Can one gain a fortunate rebirth in a Buddha Pure Land like Sukavati if one has not attained stable trekchö in this lifetime as a human being? The answer is yes, of course. Because the practices which are directed towards rebirth in a Pure Land are practices of devotion. For example, repeating the name of Amida or Amitabha Buddha. On the basis of the power of the original vow of Amitabha Buddha, if you rely on his name, that is the one sure way of being reborn in Sukavati. Trekchö, which is the set of Dzogchen understandings and practices that focus on cutting free from identification with limiting experience. Trekchö has very little to do with Pure Lands. So we need to keep all the technical terms according to their own particular vehicle or yana. There's a secondary aspect to the question. If you can gain rebirth in a Pure Land, how could this happen in the bardo? The whole thing about the bardo is that it's about being fresh. The more habit accumulation, the more automatic reflexes and so on that you've built up in this life, if they don't dissolve with the dissolving of the 5 elements, they will make it difficult to get any benefit in the bardo. So small children, even if they don't know much about Western culture, if they go to Disneyland and they see someone dressed as Mickey Mouse, they get quite excited. These figures, they are very nice, bright colors. So when you go from the first bardo of nothing at all to the bardo of the arising of the peaceful deities, and now Tara is walking towards you. Wow, Disneyland. She is smiling at you, you smile at her, and you live happily ever after. Or maybe you feel a bit embarrassed or a bit impressed by their beauty and the bright colors and the music. the fusion which can arise between you and the deity is being blocked by your self-referential interpretation of your own state. So the more naive you can be, the more trusting you can be, the less sophisticated, the better. So, to speak personally, I'm feeling a little bit more confident now because I'm forgetting more and more things as I get older. So maybe by the time the bardo comes, I'll just be one big smile. Hello, hello. So then, last bit of this question: how does tummo support trekchö? No, tummo means working with breathing and visualization to generate a sense of heat, which is the side effect of focus. Sorry. So in trekchö, this aspect of Dzogchen where we want to let go of our attachments, to not depend on conceptual elaboration in order to work out what is happening. So if we are able to bring together the tendency of desire and attachment and aversion and anger, to bring them into this burning fire, then the energy is free to go into the central channel. And so that sense of the fundamental emptiness of the ground of how we are, this definitely will help for trekchö. So the next question is, in sickness, is there a balance between seeking for remedies, whether orthodox medicine or holistic, and just being with what is and allowing whatever condition is present to find its own healing movement? So clearly, we live in a culture now where we have many, many methods available all the time. Even in many places, even 150 years ago, either you walked or you rode on a horse. You have motorbikes and motor cars and buses and planes. So if somebody decided to walk across Europe, we might think they're rather strange. But in the past, gypsies used to walk long, long ways across Europe to repair pots and pans and so on. So we have a lot more choices. And if some medical procedure could solve your health problem quickly, then probably you should make use of it. That seems like common sense. However, I am sick. Something is wrong with me. So there, subject and object are strongly described. Some sickness or illness or disease is undermining my sense of who I am. And I don't want this. And I can stop it. So on an ordinary level, that makes sense. I have a bad object inside me, but the doctor has given me a good object, the medicine. So I take the good object into me so it will attack or control the bad object, and then I'll feel better. So this is the medicine inside the paradigm of duality. When we read this text for yogis, like 3 Chetsangpa chapters at the beginning of Simply Being, it says, wear the clouds as a hat. Wear the clouds in the sky as your hat. Means live high up on the mountain. Wear dog skins as your clothes. Nobody wants the dead dog. You can skin it and make your own clothes. Whatever comes, comes. Whatever goes, goes. Means the pattern of this moment is just this. And my intention is to be just here. When I try to manipulate the object side appearance, then I'm not here and now. I'm here and there because I'm thinking about if I take that, it will help me. So for the yogi, taking a lot of medicine is not considered good. They say practice, whatever comes, comes, and if death comes, then you just die. But of course, you might think, but I only have one life. This life is very precious. That's not what the Buddha taught. You have many, many lives. And if you just die when you have to die, without attachment, without acting against death as if it was the enemy, the Buddha said in samsara there's these three levels of suffering for us human beings: birth, four levels: birth, old age, sickness, and death. And we have to learn to live with them. So, to die when it's time to die, then you just die. But if you go to the hospital, it will be difficult to know exactly when you're going to die, because the doctor's job is to keep you alive. So these things are not easy. On the one hand, it's not about being stoic and heroic. So it's also, yes, it's not about seeking antidotes everywhere. On the other hand, so generally speaking, in Dzogchen, they say we don't like antidotes. So if I'm feeling a bit anxious, I could follow a tantric path and recite some mantras or prayers. And they make me feel more grounded and more at ease. But why would I want to do that? Well, I don't like to feel anxious. When I'm anxious, I can't meditate. So the Dzogchen point of view would say, when you're anxious, stay with the anxiety. You might say, well, I get my breathing changes and I think I'm going to fall unconscious. And then you can just do that. Stay with the anxiety and go unconscious. And either you're dead or you wake up again. If you wake up again, then you realize anxiety is not so dangerous. Because we take antidotes to protect ourselves against danger. But is death a danger? Is anxiety a danger? Is poverty a danger? So these are challenging ideas. What is very important is that we shouldn't leap into some fantasy that we can overcome all difficulties. We need to step out of the frame of winning and losing. When we're sick, we're sick. And we can stay with that feeling and take the medicine as necessary, but not out of fear. Because, for example, for some of you might have been with us at the weekend when we looked at this text, the aspiration of Samantabhadra. There is one ground and two paths. The path of being aware of the ground and the path of being unaware of the ground. So When I say, oh, I have this terrible sickness, I need help, what do I imagine is the ground of the sickness? From the point of view of Dzogchen, there is only one ground: infinite emptiness, or infinite unbornness, or infinite openness, or infinite ungraspability. So all the formations which arise are illusory manifestations, like reflections in the mirror. So as much as possible, while keeping our life going, when we have responsibilities like children and so on, if your motive is to benefit all sentient beings, then even if you're taking the medicine, that will be very different from taking the medicine because you're afraid of pain or afraid of dying. So somebody has sent a quotation from Padmasambhava. When he was born, he made this statement that my father is Samantabhadra and my mother is Samantabhadri. These are the two forms we see in sexual union, the united form of the primordial Buddha. I belong to the family of non-duality of the sphere of awareness. My name is the Glorious Lotus-Born. I consume concepts of duality as my diet. I am the unborn sphere of all phenomena. So that's what Padmasambhava said when he appeared as an 8-year-old child sitting on the lotus. Well, it means that his manifestation is the union of appearance and emptiness. So he appears, but as an apparition, as an illusory formation. He has never strayed from the unborn ground. He says, I consume concepts of duality as my diet. Means that what is toxic and what feeds the development of samsara is also a food which can nourish awareness. Now, how does Padmasambhava consume these concepts of duality? By sitting open in the practice. Thoughts, feelings, memories, plans, whatever comes, comes. Padmasambhava doesn't react. He is very clear. I am not improved by happy, hopeful thoughts. I'm not corrupted or damaged by negative thoughts, by worrying thoughts, thoughts of the 5 poisons. So his message in this for us is, you needn't eat or consume or merge with the thoughts and feelings and memories that arise in your mind. When a thought arises, it's there and then it's gone. The thought, if we stay with it, is showing us its impermanence. Like with our familiar example, when the wave comes out of the sea, it remains the sea. The concept is not something other than the open lucidity of the mind. The radiance of the mind, the potential of the mind, shows itself as concepts. There are not 2 factories. A factory creating the good things and another factory creating the bad things. All that arises is unborn in the infinity of the Dharma Dhatu, of the space of possibilities. So when a thought comes in your mind or a feeling, and you take against it, I don't want to have thoughts like this. I hate feeling this way. Then we need to stay present with that. I am an arising moment. This thought is arising. I don't like it. Then the thought vanishes because it must, it always does. And the formation of myself against the thought also vanishes. The thought is not a thing. I am not a thing. I am an illusory patterning. So I haven't been born as something. I am not something because I'm changing. I am a process. I am movement. I am flow. I am a ripple in the stream that is always flowing. Unawareness of the ground means that it is as if subject and object are separate as entities. We don't need to analyze this belief. We have to simply stay present with experience as it manifests. It manifests on the subject side and on the object side. Both are patterns of movement. No one is doing anything to anyone. It is illusion. This is not a belief that we have to follow. But if we want to, we can look, and by looking clearly, we see life is ungraspable. What we grasp is never life itself. It's a commentary on life. It's something about life. A carapace, a shell. But life itself is flowing through. And the way to live is to be in the flow, to be present here and now as movement with movement. So don't struggle to change the content of your mind. Observe the actuality of what is arising. How the mind is ungraspable. What we grasp is not the mind itself. We get concepts. Concepts illuminate illusory entities as if they were true existence. Concepts do not illuminate the ground source. So don't chase after concepts, stay with the immediacy of phenomena. So now we come to our end for the evening. In the new year, we'll start again our cycle of Zooms. Thank you so much to Pedro for keeping our system running. And and our translators for spreading out our happiness. Wonderful. See you all in the new year, perhaps. Have a good break if you're going to have some time out. Life goes on. And this year, we also have to especially acknowledge the beginning of having our live Turkish translation, which is a big shift. So a big thanks to Mustafa. So have a good holiday if you're having a holiday. And perhaps we meet again. Bye for now. Bye. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, James.
Goodbye, everyone.
Organizers.
Bye, Jane.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jane.
Grazie.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
Glorious.
everybody.
Grazie
Mangalam.
mille.
Thank you all.
Buon anno.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Buon
Adios.
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 Ciao.
Adios.
Have a wonderful
Akşamlar.
New Year.
Teşekkürler.
Buon solstizio e buon anno.
Obrigada, Pedro.